They started with nothing, just love, dreams, and late-night coffee. But when the world offered her luxury and fame, she took it, leaving him behind. What happens when the woman who broke your heart returns, not for love, but forgiveness? This is a story of ambition, betrayal, and the kind of love that doesn't fade, even when everything else does. The first time I saw Laura, she was sitting on the broken steps behind our college auditorium, crying over a rejection letter from a job she thought would change her life. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling, and all I could say was, "You're crying over a company that doesn't even know what they lost." She looked up, half annoyed, half broken, and that's how our story began. I was studying business. She wanted to become a designer. She had talent but no confidence. I became her biggest believer, staying up late helping her edit her portfolios, designing her website, even spending my savings to buy her first laptop. Every night she'd message, "You're the only one who understands me." And I'd reply, "Maybe because I see the version of you that you can't yet see." I didn't realize that while I was building her dreams, I was falling deeper, helplessly, silently. Then one day everything changed. Lara called, her voice shaking with excitement. "Ryan, the CEO of Vancor Group, saw my designs. He wants to meet me in person." I smiled, pretending to be happy. But something in her tone felt different. She wasn't just excited about the opportunity, she was excited about him. That night I stared at my reflection, wondering if hard work and love could ever compete with power and money. As she walked away from the small world I'd built for her towards the shining city of success, I didn't know that this was only the beginning of the betrayal that would break me in ways I never imagined. Lara stood outside the towering glass building of Vancor Group, clutching her design folder like it was her passport to a new world. I waited in the car, watching her from afar, trying to calm the storm in my chest. She turned and waved at me, a smile that said, "Thank you for everything." I waved back, forcing a grin. Inside, she met Adrian Cole, the CEO, a man twice her age, known for his charm, influence, and an empire built from manipulation and elegance. He praised her work, her creativity, and the way her design spoke emotion. But what Lara didn't realize was that his words weren't just professional, they were calculated. Later that night, she called me. Her voice trembled with disbelief and joy. "Ryan, he said I have potential. He wants me to work under him, directly." My heart sank, but I still said the words she needed to hear. "That's incredible, Lara. I told you you'd make it." Weeks passed and everything changed. Late-night calls became rare. Her texts turned shorter. "Busy with a project. Can't talk now. Adrian wants me to stay late." I tried to ignore the unease creeping into my gut, until one night, I saw something that burned itself into my mind forever. A story popped up on social media. Lara sitting beside Adrian in a luxury restaurant, candlelight between them, her laughter unguarded, her hand resting near his. I zoomed in. That bracelet she was wearing? I bought it for her last month. My chest felt tight. My fingers trembled as I shut my phone. That night, I realized I had become a shadow in her story, the man who built her wings, only to watch her fly into someone else's arms. But I wasn't ready to give up, not yet, because love, when betrayed, doesn't fade. It transforms into something darker, and mine had just begun. I spent the next few days trying to convince myself it was all in my head, that the photos, the late nights, the silence, all had innocent explanations. But deep down I knew something had changed. Still, love makes you blind, and I was ready to prove my worth again. It was her birthday week. Last year, we celebrated it on my apartment rooftop. Just the two of us. Fairy lights and a cheap cake I baked myself. This year, she said, maybe we can celebrate later. "Ryan, Adrian's hosting a company dinner that night." Her tone was casual, but the dagger behind it was sharp. So, I decided to do something big. Something that would remind her who stood by her before the fame, before the money, before the CEO. I sold my camera, the one I used to start my freelance work, and bought her a diamond bracelet. Not as expensive as what he could give, but one that carried meaning. On the inside, I had engraved, "For the girl who taught me to dream." I waited for her outside the Vancor Tower that evening. She came out, dressed in a white silk gown, eyes glowing under the city lights. But beside her was Adrian. He held her by the waist, his hand possessive, his smile confident. When she saw me, she froze. Guilt flickered in her eyes. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" I tried to smile, holding out the box. "I just wanted to wish you happy birthday." Adrian glanced at me, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. Lara hesitated, then stepped forward. Ryan, you shouldn't have. I can't accept this. My hand dropped slowly. The moment stretched, long enough for me to realize that I wasn't part of her world anymore. I forced a nod. You're right. You already have everything you need. She opened her mouth. Maybe to explain, maybe to lie, but I walked away before she could. Behind me, I heard Adrian say softly, "Let's go, we're late." That night, I didn't cry. I laughed. Because sometimes, when your heart breaks too much, laughter is all that's left. But deep inside, I made a promise. If she had chosen success over love, then I'd build my own empire, one strong enough that one day, she'd see what she lost. And that one was the moment I stopped being the dreamer who built her world and started becoming the man who would rise above it. After that night, something inside me shifted, like a light had gone out, leaving only the quiet hum of purpose. I stopped waiting for her calls. I stopped checking her stories. And for the first time, I stopped trying to be enough for someone else. I poured every ounce of pain into work. Days blurred into nights. My hands shook from exhaustion, but I didn't care. Every photo I took, every project I built, it was fueled by heartbreak and the need to prove I could rise without her. Months passed. I launched my own media brand, Ryan X Studio, and somehow it took off. Clients came, investors called, and suddenly, the same people who once ignored me were shaking my hand and saying, "You've got something special." But success has a strange way of echoing the past, because the higher I climbed, the closer I got to her world again. One night, I was invited to a corporate gala, the kind where money and ego dance together in tuxedos and diamond gowns. And that's where I saw her, Lara, standing under a chandelier, dressed in gold, her laughter floating above the noise, her hand resting comfortably in Adrian's. They looked perfect, but when her eyes met mine across the room, her smile faltered. I didn't look away, not this time. Adrian noticed, of course. He wrapped an arm around her waist and leaned closer, like a man marking his territory. Then he walked over. "Ryan, right? I've heard about your studio. Impressive work." I nodded. "Thanks. Guess hard work pays off eventually." He smirked. "It does, but timing, my friend, that's everything." His words hung between us, sharp, deliberate. And in that moment I realized something. He wasn't just a CEO. He was a predator who enjoyed owning what others built, even hearts. Lara avoided my gaze, pretending to sip her drink. But I saw it. The guilt in her eyes, the flicker of regret she tried to hide. That night I didn't speak to her again. But I knew she still felt it. The connection, the memory, the part of her that never truly left me. And maybe that was enough for now. Because the man I was becoming wasn't chasing her anymore. He was chasing destiny. It's strange how time can change people. Months ago, Lara was the dreamer, chasing light, success, and validation. Now every time I saw her in news feeds or event photos, her smile looked forced. The shine was still there, the designer dresses, the fancy lifestyle. But her eyes told a different story. Rumors started circulating in business circles. Adrian Cole, the man everyone called the perfect CEO, had a secret. Behind closed doors, he was ruthless, controlling, manipulative. He micromanaged Lara's work, taking credit for her ideas. He dictated what she wore, who she met, even when she posted online. The same man who had promised to build her career was now owning her life. I didn't want to believe it. But one evening, fate made me see it with my own eyes. I was meeting a client at a rooftop restaurant when I heard a familiar voice. Lara's. She was sitting 2 tables away, her voice low, her tone trembling. "Adrian, please. I just need one weekend. My mother's sick." His reply was calm, but cold. "You can rest when your designs stop disappointing me." She looked down, biting her lip. And I saw it. The same fire she once carried was gone. He had dimmed her, completely. I couldn't sit there any longer. I stood, paid my bill, and left before she saw me. Because if she did, she would have seen something she wasn't ready for. Pity. That night I couldn't sleep. Because the woman who once believed in me was now trapped by the very success she chose. Days later, I got an unexpected message on my phone. From Lara. "Ryan, can we talk?" Just 5 words. But after everything that had happened, they hit harder than I expected. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to protect what was left of my peace. But another part of me, the one that still remembered her laughter under fairy lights, whispered softly, "What if she's finally breaking free?" It was almost midnight when I heard the knock. soft, hesitant, like someone afraid of being recognized by the darkness itself. I opened the doors, and there she was. Lara, drenched in rain, her eyes swollen, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. For a second, neither of us spoke. We just stood there, the silence thick with everything we never said. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside, letting her in. She walked slowly, her heels clicking against the wooden floor that once echoed with our laughter. Her perfume still smelled the same, but there was something different about her aura. The confident woman from the magazines was gone. What stood before me was someone broken, tired, human. She sat on the couch staring at her hands. "He changed, Ryan. Adrian isn't who I thought he was. He controls everything, my work, my friends, even what I say. I can't breathe anymore." I leaned against the wall, my chest tight. Part of me wanted to comfort her, the other part wanted to remind her this was her choice. "You knew what you were walking into, Lara." She looked up, tears filling her eyes. "I thought I did, until I lost myself in it. I thought success would fix everything, but it just made me realize what I destroyed." Her voice cracked. "I destroyed you, Ryan." The words hit like a punch I didn't see coming. She reached into her bag and pulled something out. The bracelet I'd given her. I kept it. I wore it when I felt like I didn't belong there. I stared at it, the silver glint reflecting memories I tried to bury. "Lara," I said quietly, "why now?" She wiped her tears. "Because I can't pretend anymore. Adrian, he's not the man I thought he was. He's everything I was running from. I just want peace." For a long moment I said nothing. The rain outside kept tapping against the windows, filling the silence between us. Finally I spoke. "Peace doesn't come by returning to the past, Lara." "Then where does it come from?" she whispered. "By forgiving it." She closed her eyes, tears falling freely now. And for the first time I realized maybe this wasn't about love anymore. Maybe it was about closure. She stayed that night, not as a lover, not as the girl I lost, but as someone searching for the strength to start again. And I knew by morning she'd be gone. The rain had stopped by dawn. A pale light spilled through the window, soft and quiet. The kind of morning that feels like a pause between two lives. Lara was still asleep on the couch, her hair falling loosely across her face. For a moment she looked peaceful, like the girl I once knew, the one who dreamed of art, not applause. I stood there watching her breathe, memories flooding in. Our first rooftop night, the silly inside jokes, the way she used to trace constellations with her fingers and say, "We'll shine one day too, Ryan." And maybe we did, just not together. I brewed coffee, left her a cup on the table, and went to the balcony. The city was waking up, loud and alive. Everything we once wanted it to be. When I turned back, she was awake, sitting quietly, holding the bracelet in her hand. "You were always the better one," she said softly. "No," I replied. "I just loved differently." She smiled, a sad, broken smile that said 1,000 things neither of us could fix. Then she stood. "I'm leaving him," she whispered. "But I'm not asking you to wait for me." I nodded, because I already knew. Some stories don't end with revenge or reunion. They end with realization. She walked to the door, pausing once to look back. "Thank you for still being the place I could return to." The door closed. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was peaceful, because for the first time I didn't feel like a victim of her choices. I felt free of them. I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. There was an email waiting, from a major investor who wanted to collaborate with my studio. I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally understood. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting them back, it's getting yourself back. And as the sun broke through the clouds, I whispered to myself, "Goodbye, Lara, thank you for teaching me how to rise."